Danny Wolf is a singularly unique prospect in this draft class, and I think in any draft class. I was able to watch every game of Danny Wolf in college this year as he was the best player and best prospect on my favorite college basketball team, the Michigan Wolverines. Danny played 2 years at Yale and then 1 year at Michigan and is now a likely first round pick. He can do things on a basketball court that nobody else that's his size in all of college basketball can do. That was the sell this past season. He really was like a 7 foot point guard. He averaged 13 points a game, 9.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, over 3 turnovers a game was the downside, and only a 34% 3 point shooter on 3 attempts a game. That could certainly be better, but there's a lot to like with Danny Wolf, even if it's erratic at times. We got Dion here to help us break down the full scouting report of Danny Wolf. We'll start with where we have him on our big board. He slots in 26th overall on the big board. I have him 30th on mine, so this is a little bit higher than I had him, which is the same case for you. You had him 28th on your big board. I guess he dropped or he rose up to 26 here because Riley had him 19th, which was the highest that any of our team that worked on our rankings had Danny Wolf. I think, Dion, our board with Danny Wolf at 26 is lower than the consensus from NBA scouts and GMs. I've seen Danny Wolf mocked as early as 14th in this draft and often in the teens. So I guess let's just start from a strengths perspective, and then maybe we can get into some weaknesses on why we are a little lower on Danny than the consensus. But what are the biggest strengths with Danny Wolf's game when you watch him?
So to be honest, for me, it's IQ. So part of the reason I ranked him where I ranked him wasn't because I necessarily like think he's the 28th best player. Because I'm gonna be honest, there's some dudes I have above him that played in Europe I've never watched play. I didn't hear of until I was doing the big board. I also just want to throw this out there for all the listeners. Somehow we have 80 players on the list. I have no one ranked 78 to 80. When I
Well,
don't
that
know.
Cart ranked two players 19th. So, yeah, again, not a math show, maybe not a big board show. We're trying out here, folks, but please continue.
But I think Danny Wolf's best fit is within those late 20s, mid to late 20s. I think he can produce right away on a contender. And maybe, like obviously, like I guess the Warriors aren't technically a contender. We are a 7 seed, but one of those teams that plans to be competing for a championship, I think that's where he's going to want to go if he doesn't go lotto. And that's why I ranked him there because I think that's the best fit for him. I don't think it's that far fetched that he falls that way too because once you come out the lotto, if you're picking 15, 16, 17, 18, do you want Danny Wolf, who, like, I'm not saying is a finished product, but is much closer to being a finished product? Or do you want the unknown in like a Nolan Traore? And I
Yeah.
think a lot of teams are going to take that unknown and it's going to cause Danny Wolf to fall a little bit, which is good for him because I think his biggest strength is IQ and the way he sees the game is much different than any college player.
I do think you're right. And from what I've heard, there are specific organizations that will care about Danny Wolf more than others. And as you go through from the teens into the 20s, obviously the better teams start to have picks. Danny Wolf does make a lot of sense for a team that's ready to win. Maybe a guy you could have come run in, maybe run your second unit. He's older. He's not like a 19-year-old where you don't know the upside. You kind of know the strengths and weaknesses of Danny's game. But there are a couple teams that I think are in win now mode, drafting in the teens that could end up. There's a specific spot I'll get to later in the video on where I think Danny Wolf could go. But as far as strengths go for me, it's got to be creativity. You mentioned IQ. He is a very smart player, but he's also a very creative player. He wants to make the highlight reel play. He often makes the highlight reel play because it is the best play, which it's not like he's trying to be fancy. Sometimes he just will throw this like one-armed hook skip pass that looks like something you've never seen before because he can. And it's the quickest way to get the ball across the court. He threw more like tight, thread the needle, pick and roll passes to a 7 footer in Vlad Golden as his teammate last year than I've ever seen a 7 footer throw. But I want to warn NBA fans, this is a 7 foot guy. You're going to think you're getting a center. You're going to think you're getting a stretch center. You're not. You are getting a point guard. Danny Wolf is a 7 foot, 255 pound point guard. And Michigan's season changed for the better when they viewed him as that and stopped trying to play with, oh, he's a forward, he's a big. No, he's our point guard. He's going to run our half court offense and often rebound and go. And we're not going to ask him to get in the post because that's where the weaknesses come in. Let's get to some of those weaknesses. I'll go first on this one. Post scoring, he's not comfortable down there. Isolation scoring, he doesn't really have all that much. You will often watch Danny Wolf and be frustrated that a player as dynamic as him, with the burst of him, he can blow by a center at any given point, that he can't score. He's not a great finisher. He's much more a creator for everybody else than he is a go get a bucket guy. And I think that can work in the NBA, but you need to have the right approach with him. If he lands with a franchise that wants to turn him in to the traditional stretch the floor, pick and pop center, it could be a disaster. Because my biggest weakness for Danny, he's not a shooter the way he's built to be a shooter. His volume was low at Michigan from three. He could have easily been a 5 3 points attempts a game guy. He was 3 attempts a game. He shot only 33.6% from three. That fluctuated. There were times he couldn't make one. There were times he was on fire. The biggest red flag with his shooting, Dion, he shot 59% from the free throw line this year. I mean, you straight up, I don't think are going to last in an NBA organization as a 7 foot guard that needs to play on the perimeter if you shoot sub 60% from the free throw line. I think the shot's okay. This is not a guy that can't shoot, but you watched him at the combine, the video of his shot, it was slow. He doesn't have a lot of jump on his legs. There's really no lower body movement on his jumper. And I wonder how the shot will translate against bigger athletes and just bigger defenders.
Yeah, I agree with all those weaknesses. I want to add the biggest one that I think is going to cause him issues at the NBA level too. It's side to side movement defensively. He ain't standing in front of nobody. Like he ain't standing in front of nobody. The biggest difference between NBA and college basketball is them NBA dudes go hunting, and they're gonna see Danny Wolf on that court. It's gonna be like, whoever has Danny guarding them, please come set this screen until he switches, and we'll just set it over and over and over. Like I watched Halliburton do this to Cat yesterday for 20 minutes, one possession, and he just couldn't get the switch. And then Miles Turner finally set a good enough screen to get the switch, and it was a bucket. And it's just going to be a lot of that for Danny Wolf, which is why I think it's so important to get to a contender. Get to a team that has Derek White, who can help you with switches, who has and Alex Caruso, who can guard 1 through 5, and Aaron Gordon, who's going to play the 4 or 5, but can also guard point guards. That's going to make it harder for these teams to go hunting for screens on you. If he goes like a lotto team, he's going to be on an island a lot this year, like a
Yep.
lot.
Yep, I completely agree with you. His defense was something that was debated often. There were metrics that showed he was one of the best defenders in the country. There was a game last year where he basically won Michigan the game defensively, shutting down John Tonji, who was one of the best perimeter scorers in the country, an All-American level player. John Tonji, not an NBA level player. He went to the combine and was okay, but he was kind of a ground-bound 6'5" guard. Danny Wolf could just be bigger than him and sort of suffocate him in the NBA. I think you're right. The off-ball defense is something that would concern me. How do you hide him? He got lost defensively quite a bit. He's not a great rim protector, not great, really anything other than a great rebounder, which we didn't even mention in his strengths, and a great passer. Like we said, very unique player. It was the story of his season in college. I don't recall any players whose best moments were so consistent and so good, but there was also all this frustrating, like, why is there struggles too? And it didn't feel like Michigan was good. It didn't feel like Michigan was like having issues because of Danny Wolf ever. But when things went wrong, it was often like, what is Danny doing? We've got to get this figured out. And I don't know how that's going to translate to the NBA. We've got a bunch of categories here. So let's start to go through these. I want to begin with one word to describe Danny Wolf. Give me your word. I'll give you mine, and then you can explain your answer.
So my word is going to be something no one agrees with, and I just want to preface it by saying I know that it's because I view it differently than I think the consensus does. I view it based upon definition. Danny Wolf is a unicorn, and when I say
Hold on, let me
he,
say mine, then we'll go back to you. I said unordinary, so we both got a UN theme going right now. But okay, unicorn Danny Wolf.
So to me, to the consensus, unicorn is somebody that's like putting up numbers we've never seen before, performances we've never seen before. To me, a unicorn's a talent we've never seen before. How many 7 foot point guards have we watched play basketball? You know what I mean? Like, is he a great shooter? No, but he's 7 foot playing point guard shooting 33% from three. I don't think there's anybody we've seen do that. And that's why my word for him is unicorn, just because it is a different style of play than I
Yeah.
think we've ever seen.
I same exact reasons. I'm just going unordinary. There's nothing ordinary about watching Danny Wolf. You watch a guy as skilled as him, he should be able to shoot. You watch a guy as big as him, he should be able to defend and block shots. He shouldn't be able to do the things he can do. I've never seen someone that big move as quick as he can and just be comfortable with all these flashy moves. And it's not just that, oh, he's a point guard. He has like advanced point guard skills for a point guard. Like, it's not he can dribble. It's like he has all these crosses and creativity, and like he handles like a good handling point guard at 7 foot. There's nothing ordinary about it, and it's going to be fun to see how it translates at the NBA level. Is he more likely to hit his floor or his ceiling?
To me, I have a lower ceiling for him than I think many will. So I think he hits his ceiling, and I honestly think depending on what team he goes to, I think he could hit his ceiling this year.
Okay, I said he's more likely to hit his floor, and it pains me as a Michigan fan to say that. I just think if the situation's not perfect for him, there's a world NBA teams try to turn him into the archetype the league is a lot more comfortable with. And it's one of those things. Michigan was able to thrive because it made sense for Michigan to cater everything to Danny and build it all around him in the NBA, even if he gets a good situation, no team is going to cater their team to Danny Wolf. It's not good enough. He's not going to be the first option. And how many teams are like, you know what? Let's do what's best for our sixth man. It's not how this works. So I worry situationally, even if I don't worry about the player, and that's why I think he's more likely to hit his floor. Give me a team fit that makes sense. You've been adamant that fit is going to be huge here. Who are you after for a best case scenario fit?
So in very me fashion, I didn't factor in this team doesn't have a first round pick and has no way to get Danny Wolf. Uh,
I mean, maybe they could move in, maybe.
but I think the Warriors are the perfect fit for him. Uh,
Caveat that you are a Warriors fan, so go ahead.
it's the Warriors aren't looking for a backup point guard necessarily. We're looking for a backup player to play point guard. When you look at the most successful Warriors teams, the people that ran backup point guard, well, I guess Sean Livingston, obviously. But outside of Sean Livingston, you had Jordan Poole, not a point guard. No matter what he wants to put on his little Washington Wizards like memorabilia thing, not a point guard. Andre Iguodala, obviously not a point guard. On those KD teams, a lot of the times KD was playing backup point when Sean Livingston was out with injury or resting. There's a lot of times where like going into this upcoming year, we're going to stagger Steph and Jimmy's minutes. I think you're going to see a lot of Steph playing with with the role players from the second unit a lot more, which means Steph is off ball. So you could have Danny Wolf kind of like in that Draymond Green role. Or you have Jimmy Butler playing with the second unit and you keep Steph and Jimmy together. Then you have Danny Wolf playing the Draymond Green to Jimmy Butler. Either way, we're not necessarily looking for a unique natural backup point guard. We're just looking for a guy that can come in and play the role regardless of the position.
So you would like that as a Warriors fan. You're
I
hoping
would
that
love,
happens. Yeah.
I would love it.
Okay. I said the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they got a couple different ways they could acquire him here. The Thunder have the 15th pick in the draft, and then they have the 24th pick in the draft. My interpretation from asking around is that you're going to have to pick him at that 15 spot if you want. I don't think the Thunder are going to wait till 24 if they want Danny Wolf. In fact, I think there's been some rumoring that if teams are interested in Danny Wolf, you might have to move ahead of Oklahoma City at 15. Um, we'll see. To me, that little pod, 14, 15, 16, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, Orlando. Those are playoff caliber teams that are going to be competing as soon as next year. and I think would have a lot of the things you talked about earlier, an Alex Caruso type that could cover for him, that wouldn't ask too much of him. All three of those teams would ask him to run the second unit. And to me, Oklahoma City, the likely NBA champions this year, is the number one fit for Danny. In 5 years, where is he? He could be all NBA, an all star, a starter, a bench guy, or out of the league elsewhere. I said that he would be on an NBA bench. What'd you say?
I said on an NBA bench too, but like I think he could be like an incredible player off somebody's bench though.
Yeah, and good team bench guy is a lot better for Danny than bad team starter. And I think hopefully that's what happens for him. Superlative time. I love this category. Danny Wolf is most likely to. I said get invited to the skills competition on All-Star weekend as a rookie.
I love that. I actually think that should have him, J Dub, and Chet in the
Yeah.
skills competition next year.
Yeah.
Special.
And
Um,
like the NBA is he's gonna go viral like once a month, even if he's barely in a rotation. And the NBA is gonna like eat this shit up and kind of like Mac McClung him out to save the skills competition. And Danny also might be the type to like take pride in winning the skills competition. CP and Victor showed up like trying to cheat it. Danny might show up and like do warm-ups and be like, no, this is my shit. I'm gonna win this for a decade. And I hope it happens.
yeah, I forgot Wemby and Chris Paul cost me $100 by clowning around. I forgot about that. Wemby, I might dislike you. Just want that out there. Might dislike you, Wemby. I said he's most likely to produce on a contender as a rookie. I think he is in the area where he's going to be picked to a contender. When I look at the players that might be picked to a contender, I think he's the most ready to like step on the floor right now, play a role. I also like the idea that he went to Yale because I don't think, yes, he was the star at Michigan. That's a very small window of his basketball career, though. And
Yeah.
I always say this, it's very important to pick players that you're choosing in these role player slots that are willing to play a role. I look at Tahad Pettiford, another guy that's willing to play a role. That's why I think he's NBA first round pick ready. Drake Powell, respectfully, I would caution. I would
Yeah.
caution. I don't think Drake Powell wants to play a role. And I think being able to play a role and wanting to play a role are two different things. Danny Wolf is willing to play a role.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, everyone on the Michigan side had a great experience with Danny. So I think yeah, no concerns there from like will he be happy in whatever role he's in. Two comparisons. We got a best case and a worst case. Let's do best case comparison first. I said Tony Kukoc. Who'd you say?
It's a Boris Diaw.
Ooh, I like Boris. Talk me through the vision there.
So Boris Diaw was a phenomenal player. Couldn't necessarily shoot, but you had to guard him at the 3-point line, right? Like he was willing to shoot it, couldn't necessarily make it, but he hit big ones. He couldn't necessarily finish around the rim, but with all the spacing and his flashy creativity and the shooting around him, he created a lot of open looks for himself and others. Couldn't play defense worth a lick, and couldn't necessarily. I mean, I think Danny Wolf can rebound. I think he's going to struggle to rebound at the NBA level a little bit more than he did in the Big Ten. But I think Boris Diaw and Danny Wolf have a lot of the same skill sets. I also think Boris Diaw flamed out on every non-Spurs roster. Danny Wolf will also flame out if he doesn't go to the right roster. And I think that's the biggest reason I like this comparison is like Charlotte Bobcats, Boris Diaw. Like we try to forget that ever happened. But
Yeah.
San Antonio Spurs, Boris Diaw was special.
I like that. I think a lot of the same similar elements of that are my comp with Tony. So Tony Kukoc drafted in a perfect situation, went to a team where he had a smaller role on a team that won a bazillion things. He was the sixth man of the year. He was constantly one of the best six men in the league. Always a super high assist guy, but because there were great players around him that needed the ball too, he was never like leading a team in assists. Tony's career became really sustainable. He became a Hall of Famer because he got the jump shot going. Now, this is a guy who had seasons where he shot below 60% from the free throw line. He had seasons where he shot below 30% from three. And then all of a sudden you look up, he's 32, shooting 47% from three, shooting 72% from the free throw line. That's what Danny needs to do. I would also argue Tony Kukoc, people are going to kind of pick at this because Tony Kukoc was, big for a point guard. That's what they call him, 6'10", but he was 192 pounds. I would argue that that's the best way for Danny to stay in this league. If an NBA team wants to bulk him up, have him guard fives, be a center, I don't think that's going to work. I think he would be better served almost slimming down, go all the way in on the fact that I am a perimeter guy. And to me, the model for that would be exactly what happened with Tony Kukoc. Let's go straight to worst case scenario here. I said Darko Milicic,
Ooh. Yeah, so I said, and I want to preface this one. I mean this with none of the additional controversy that comes along with this comparison.
got it.
But I said Royce White.
Ah, okay.
So
Yeah,
I think Royce White and Danny Wolf are the same player, and Royce White flamed out.
yeah, I don't hate that. Only difference I think for me was Royce maybe more of a like an athletic pop to him. He just felt like
Yeah,
a physical force that Danny doesn't feel like. But yeah, they did do a lot of similar things in college. I don't love the Darko comp just because it's I don't know, kind of corny to go straight to that. But look, I'm a Pistons fan. We drafted Darko, and I feel like what Darko was billed as in the pre-draft process in 2002 is basically what NBA scout people are saying Danny Wolf is. It's like this 7 foot guy with point guard skills. He can pass. He's also back to the basket. No, he's not. That's just not him at all. Darko didn't like basketball. I don't think you have those concerns with Danny Wolf whatsoever. But I do think like pretty early into this, it just became clear the fit with the Pistons organization was a disaster. They were going to stop prioritizing Darko, and as a result, Darko like let his body go and got out of the league very quickly. I think there's a world where Danny ends up in the wrong situation on the wrong team that tries to make him a center, and it just goes away very quickly.
I agree. I also, as you were talking, can I hold myself accountable? I know his perfect fit now, and I didn't say it on this at all.
Which is what?
Bruce Brown on the Nuggets.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I
That
don't hate
that's
that
his
at all.
perfect fit next to Jokic. He can be the
And
ball handler in the game.
honestly, and like, well, there's some Jokic-y things with Danny. So him being able to like compete against Danny in practice and work with him would be kind of fun too.
Yeah, can't believe I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Can't believe.
Well, there you have it, folks. If you like this video, we have 79 more of these. We're doing all of the top 80 on our big board. We're dropping 3 per day leading up to our Draft to Palooza live show on the night of the NBA draft. Thank you for watching.